Welcome back to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. Today we are checking out a huge collection of Jurassic World apex predators, meaning that they are at the top of the food chain. I've actually got a brand new Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Jurassic World Legacy Collection that we're gonna open up first. Here is the brand new T-Rex and the baby T-Rex. I already have one of these T-Rexes, but I think this is the first of the green T-Rex that I have. So I'm super excited to check this one out. As you can see, most of its body is a dark green color. It's got the lighter underbelly and it's got the black detailing right along the top. And it's about as adjustable as my other T-Rex figures. So you can move the ankles, you can move the legs into different positions, move the tail around, and then the neck you can also move around so it can look in different directions. And of course, there's the button at the top of its head for the chomping action. This is a really cool looking figure, and I'm sure that the T-Rex is one of the best known apex predators. Here we've got a dinosaur that you can't find in real life, but I'm sure it would be an apex predator if it was real. This is the Indominus Rex, and this is one of the big figures. You can see that it's pretty adjustable. You can move the legs into different positions, and that causes the dinosaur to look up and down. You can see it moves its neck back and forth like that. This figure also comes with the two action buttons, one for the chomping, and then one on the back for the slashing action. This is another T-Rex. This one is mostly brown. It's got the dark brown on the top, lighter brown on the sides, and then a tan on the bottom. And this T-Rex figure has a tearing action, actually. So when you press this button on its back, it tears just like that. And there's also a second action button that swings the tail back and forth. Here is a Carcharodontosaurus with blue coloring on its body and the orange and brown detailing on the top. This also has one action button for chomping. Plus, you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail as well. Next up, we've got two Indoraptors. And obviously, these dinosaurs aren't from real life, but if they were, I can guarantee you that they would be an apex predator. I just remember them from the Jurassic World movie. These were some of the most feared dinosaurs. This first Indoraptor is a more basic figure. You can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but you can't adjust the neck or open and close the mouth. But on this second Indoraptor figure, this one is super adjustable. It's got a bunch of points of articulation. Again, it's a double jointed tail. You can bend the knees, you can bend the ankles, you can adjust the arms fully, and you can open and close the mouth too. Right over here, we've got two Suchomimuses. This one is a blue with yellow detailing, and this one is yellow with brown detailing on the top. This one has two action buttons, one for chomping and one for the tail. This Suchomimus only has one action button that activates the jaw. Right up top here, we've got a smaller figure, but still a fearsome predator. This is a Baryonyx. Got the green sides and belly and the brown top. The arms and legs can articulate and move around, and there's an action button on its back for chomping. Back here, actually, we've got another Baryonyx. This one has a brown body and sides with the dark gray blue coloring on the top and the bright orange detailing right on the top of its face. And just like the other figure, the legs and the arms can move too. Here is an older Jurassic World figure. You can see that this is another T-Rex. It's got the full tan body, and on its head it's got some gray detailing. It's got those yellow eyes and an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Here we've got a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Yangchuanosaurus. It's got the green body, a lighter yellow underbelly. It's got some brown detailing along the top, and then that bright orange piece right on its head. This figure is pretty adjustable with its arms and its legs. You can see that moving the legs dips its head down like that. And the tail controls the jaw and can move the neck around too. Back here is another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Scorpiovenator. This figure has an orange belly and sides. It's got some white detailing right along the top and a dark gray-blue color right along the top of its head. This figure is fairly adjustable. You can move the arms and the legs, and when you push down on its legs, it does a chomping action. This one is another T-Rex. This T-Rex though is the battle damage edition. It's got the button on top that you can use to turn on and off the battle damage, which is a pretty awesome feature. This figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the ankles, can move the legs up and down. The tail only has one joint in it though, but the neck of this T-Rex is really adjustable. You can have him look in all directions, and you can open and close its mouth really easily. This is a Carnotaurus figure. It's got the clay red body with the darker detailing spots on the sides and the brown right along the top. You can see that the Carnotaurus has a lot of bumps and ridges and that spine right there as well. And with this figure, the tail controls the head, and there's a button as well to open and close its mouth. Here's another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series, and I think this is one of my favorite newest dinosaur figures. This is the Rajasaurus. This figure also has a chomping action when you press down on the legs, and you can adjust its arms, its legs, and even twist its tail around a little bit. I love this dinosaur's head. You've got the horn right at the top, and you've got this really cool, smaller spine right on its neck, these spikes. It's really cool. Here we have another very well-known apex predator. This is a Velociraptor. This specific one is actually Velociraptor Charlie from the Amber collection. So this figure is very adjustable. You can move all the different parts of its arms and legs, and you can adjust its head quite a bit as well too. And it's even got this headpiece right behind its face too. This is another ginormous T-Rex, and this T-Rex is pretty adjustable as well. As you can see, you can move the arms up and down, you can adjust the leg position, and instead of moving the neck and face up here, you actually can control it with the tail by swiveling it. This is another Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This one is Velociraptor Echo. This Velociraptor has the light brown coloring as well as the dark black right on top. And just like the other Amber collection Velociraptor, it is very adjustable on all different parts of its body. You can even move the claws on its feet up and down. Back over here, we've got a smaller Indominus Rex figure. This is an older Jurassic World figure. It's got the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. And this figure is fairly adjustable as well. You can move the legs a little bit, you can move the arms just a bit, and the tail controls the mouth and the neck too. We've got a few more awesome looking Baryonyxes in here. This first one has a slide action for different roaring sound effects. And this Baryonyx doesn't have any buttons on it, but you can use the tail to move the head around. Right over here is a well-known predator from Jurassic World. Once again, it isn't a real dinosaur, but I can guarantee this would be an apex predator. This is the Scorpios Rex. This figure has 2 action buttons on its back, one for the mouth and one for the claws. And the rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs quite a bit, and you can adjust the neck to have it look around. And the tail is spring-loaded too, so you can fling the tail back and forth with those poisonous quills. Back here is a huge water dinosaur that I'm sure you recognize from the first Jurassic World movie. This is the Mosasaurus. This figure is ginormous. It's got a dark blue body on the top and then a white underbelly. And all over its body you can actually see these like white specks, a little bit of detailing. And there's a few things that you can move on this figure. You can move the fins around, you can swivel the tail back and forth, and you can open and close the jaw, which is a pretty big jaw, I'd say. Probably fit a few small dinosaurs in there. Here's another popular apex predator. This is the Spinosaurus. Did you know that the Spinosaurus is the largest known carnivorous dinosaur that existed? These were even bigger than T-Rexes. This figure has an adjustable tail, the legs are pretty movable, as well as the ankles. You can move the arms up and down, and you can actually adjust the neck quite a bit as well too. Here is another awesome T-Rex predator. This looks to be very similar as the first T-Rex that I unboxed in this video, but with different coloring. See, it's got the brown body and the darker brown on top, and just like the other T-Rex, an adjustable tail, you can move the legs and the arms, and you can move the head around too. Here's another dinosaur from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Quetzalcoatlus. I didn't really know how big these dinosaurs were until I saw them in the new Jurassic World movie. These things were huge, and they took down that plane. This is a Ceratosaurus. I think we actually have another one with different coloring. This one is a dark green color with black detailing on the top, and this one is a light gray with red and a darker gray detailing on the top as well. And they both have that slide action button for different sound effects and different roars. I think the sound effects are the same though. This one's an interesting looking dinosaur. This is a Cryolophosaurus. Look at that interesting crowning on the top of its head. This Cryolophosaurus has a dark blue body with white, red, and bright orange detailing. And you can move the arms, you can move the legs, and you can use the tail to move the head around. Here is another mighty Carnotaurus, the red side and the dark, it's almost like a purple color on the top. This dinosaur has an adjustable tail and adjustable legs and arms, and there's a button on the top for the chomping action. Here's a species I don't think we've seen in this collection yet. This is an Allosaurus. It's got the dark green body with the red and white detailing. See, it's got those spikes right along its spines up top, and you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail. And it's got the slide action button for different roars and chomps. This bright red dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus. It's a pretty interesting looking one. It's smaller than most of the other figures. It's got the bright orange detailing on the top of its head and the action button on its back for chomping. Next up, we've got, I believe, a Majungasaurus. This is a super colorful dinosaur. It's got the dark green, yellow, and blue on its neck. It's got those teal eyes. And like many of the other dinosaur figures, you can use the tail to move the head and neck around. This is an Albertosaurus with the Battle Damage edition. As you can see, it's got two different types of battle damage. One that's right there on the top of the plastic, and one that you can actually open up. This has the stomach and ribs that you can close down, and then the skin that you can do to cover all of the battle damage. That's pretty cool. The rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs, arms, and tail, as well as the neck, and you can open and close the mouth manually. Over here is the Carcharodontosaurus with a blue body and orange and brown detailing. Look at all those spikes right along its spine too. It's interesting how they're all different heights. With this figure, you can move the arms, legs, and tail, and there's an action button on top for chomping. Here is another Allosaurus with different coloring and different actions too. Check out those spikes right along its spine. You can see the two action buttons right here, one for the mouth and one for the arms. And I think we actually have one more Allosaurus in here with different coloring. This one is gray with yellow detailing. You can only move the arms and legs in this figure, aside from the action button on its back that controls its mouth. Right over here is another Albertosaurus. This figure is about medium sized, and it does not have any battle damage like the one we saw earlier, but it's still pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, the legs, and you can use the tail to control the face. Here is another Carnotaurus. This one is a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. As you can see, it's got the broken horn in the front, and this figure is smaller, but pretty adjustable. You can move the legs, the arms, twist the tail, and you can move the head and jaw around too. Here are a few small Dilophosaurus figures. This first one is mostly gray with red detailing and an action button on the tail that activates the frills. The second one is a bit more brightly colored. It has a green body and two different tones of orange, as well as the action button to activate the frills. And last but not least, we've got a bunch of smaller Velociraptor figures. Oh, actually, This is another baby T-Rex, just like we saw at the beginning of the video. But the rest of these figures are all Velociraptors, so let's check them out one by one. First, we've got the tan and brown Velociraptor. This one has a slashing action, spring-loaded torso, so it swings back and forth. This Velociraptor has a brown and yellow body with battle damage that you can open and close on the side. This next Velociraptor has a red and dark purple body, and you can move the arms, legs, and tail, as well as the mouth, but there's no special features on this figure. And these last two figures are similar in movement, but with different coloring. It's got the blue body with a yellow and gold coloring. This one has a dark brown color with orange on the top. Started with this Scorpios Rex and this Scorpios. This Scorpios Rex figure is quite a bit larger than many of the Jurassic World figures I have. It has these huge claws on its hands, comes with sound effects and the 2 action buttons on its back, plus those huge poisonous quills as well. And let's check out the Scorpios. It's got an orange body with some brighter coloring. It's got a bunch of spikes running along the top of its head, and you can use its tail to move its head back and forth and to chomp its jaw as well. Next up, we've got the giant T-Rex figure and an Endoraptor figure. This T-Rex figure is actually a bit older. It's got a rubbery neck and the rubbery tail. This figure has a huge chomping action. When you lift up its head, it roars, and then when you lift its tail, it chomps down with some sound effects too. And this Endoraptor figure is pretty awesome as well. It's a bit bigger than many of the Endoraptor figures I have, and it has a really cool feature where you can move the tail to twist its torso around, move its neck, and there's even buttons to control its arms and its jaw as well. And check it out, even its eyes light up too. Next up, we've got another T-Rex, but this one is a green color versus a Carnotaurus figure. The T-Rex is a bit bigger, and it has some cool black detailing right along the top. Plus, you can adjust the neck to look in all sorts of directions and use the button at the top of its head to open and close its jaw too. And the Carnotaurus over here, although it's a little bit smaller, it has some pretty awesome detailing as well. It comes in the dark brown color, it has the gray underbelly, and it has a tail that moves its head side to side and up and down, and opens and closes its jaws too. Next up in Predator versus Predator, we've got a Suchomimus, and right over here we've got the Irritator. The Suchomimus is a little bit larger and it has blue and yellow coloring along its body. It's got a huge spine running down all the way down its tail, and it has an action button to chomp its really long and narrow snout. And let's check out this Irritator dinosaur as well, which actually looks somewhat similar as the Suchomimus. They've both got tall spines running along their back and long, narrow snouts too. You can open and close the mouth manually, and you can actually use the tail to move its head around too. Down here, we've got an Albertosaurus versus a Rajasaurus. The Albertosaurus here has some extreme battle damage on its side that you can close. See its ribs that you can open and close, and you can close its skin entirely. Plus, the rest of its body is very adjustable as well. You can even move the neck around to look in all different directions too. And the Rajasaurus is an entirely different color and a little bit smaller than the Albertosaurus. It's got dark blue and some white. It's got some huge spikes running along the top of its head, and it has an action that when you press down on its back, it chomps. Here we've got 2 T-Rexes from different eras of Jurassic World. This first one is more recent. It's from Jurassic World Dominion, and this is an older one. I think it's from Camp Cretaceous, actually. Comparing the size, I think the Camp Cretaceous one is a little bit larger. This one is really cool because you can use the tail to move the head up and down and open and close the jaw too. And the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex, although a little bit smaller, has some really cool coloring. It's like a darker brown-orange color. Plus, it has the extreme battle damage right on the side that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. Here are some winged dinosaurs. This one right here is a Quetzalcoatlus And this orange one is a Pteranodon. The Pteranodon is a lot more simple in color. It's mostly this brown-orange clay coloring. It has some yellow detailing on the wings, and you can open and close the mouth manually as well. The Quetzalcoatlus is a bit more of a sophisticated toy. You can actually fold the wings closed all the way, and there's action buttons on its back to flap the wings and to chomp its jaw as well. Plus, it's got some really cool coloring as well. And I think that the Quetzalcoatluses are much larger than Pteranodons in real life. We've got a huge dinosaur figure right here, and also a smaller one right on top of it. This huge one is a Mosasaurus, and this smaller one is a Sarcosuchus dinosaur. This huge Mosasaurus figure is an ocean dinosaur, so you'll see this in the water. I'm sure you recognize it from the first Jurassic World movie. And it's probably 2 or 3 feet long from the tip of its mouth all the way to the tail, and you can adjust all the fins and open and close its mouth. Now this Sarcosuchus figure is a lot smaller, and it may not have lived entirely in the water, but I believe that these dinosaurs lived by the water and might have even hunted in it as well. It's got this super long and narrow snout, and it looks a lot like an alligator in a way. It looks like it has some armor plating all along its back too, and you can use the tail to open and close the jaw. Next up, why don't we open up this Jurassic World Dino Tractors? I believe it's pronounced Dryptosaurus or Dryptosaurus. It's looking pretty cool. Let's open it up. This Dryptosaurus figure is pretty cool, and it's around the same size as many of my Baryonyx figures. It's got some green that runs along from its arms, down its back, all the way to its tail, where it's got a ton of really interesting spikes, and it's got some dark brown from its feet that trails up all the way on its back, all the way to its head, where it has some dark blue right along its mouth as well. And let's see what else. You can move the arms up and down and outwards. You can twist the tail and move the legs too. There is the barcode scanner right there on its back that you can open and close, and it's got an action button right here on its back. It's a pretty small one, but you actually push it side to side and it rotates its head for different sound effects and for chomping too. And let's compare it against a Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This Velociraptor is bright green, it's got the striping along its back, and like many of the Amber collection figures, is super posable and adjustable as well. These figures are really cool. Next up is a Baryonyx versus a Cryolophosaurus figure. They're about the same size. I think the Cryolophosaurus is a little bit bigger and heavier. This dinosaur is pretty muscular. Look at those huge legs. It's got a huge torso as well, and it's got some really cool crown embellishment on the top of its head. And best of all, you can use the tail to move the head around in a really lifelike way. Let's compare that to the Baryonyx figure, a little bit thinner. It's probably a faster runner. It's got some smaller legs and arms. It's got a variety of different colors along its body, and it's got the slide lever action for different chomping movements. Here is a Ceratosaurus versus what I believe is a Yangchuanosaurus. They're about the same in size. I think the Ceratosaurus is a little bit bigger. The Yangchuanosaurus has a really long neck though. Let's check out the Ceratosaurus. It's got some different tones of brown. It's also got that bright red as usual, an action button on its back to open and close its jaw, and you can move its arms and its legs and its tail as well. The Yangchuanosaurus figure is totally different in color. It's green, yellow, and blue, and on this figure you can use the tail to move the head around. Sounds like the sound effects are a little bit broken though. This figure has even smaller front arms. I think those might be even smaller than a T-Rex's front arms, and definitely smaller than a Ceratosaurus's front arms as well. Over here we've got another Amber Collection Velociraptor figure versus a Baryonyx figure. The Baryonyx is a little bit larger than the Velociraptor figure. It has a longer neck and maybe a longer tail, I think. And it's got an action button on its back that you can use to open and close the jaw. Check out that super bright orange detailing right on the top of its head too. and it's got a long and narrow snout. The Velociraptor, on the other hand, doesn't have quite as long of a mouth, and it's a bit more wide. Its eyes are a lot larger, and since this is from the Amber collection, it is very poseable and adjustable too. Way more poseable than that Baryonyx figure. This is a Carcharodontosaurus figure versus a smaller Indominus Rex figurine. Carcharodontosaurus is definitely a lot larger. It's got some bright yellow, orange, and brown coloring. It's got striping all the way down its neck and its back, and it's got a huge action button on its back for chomping. Look at that huge chomping action all the way down, and it's so fast you can hardly see it. This Indominus Rex figure is a bit older and a bit smaller. It's got the classic gray detailing with a bit more green-gray coloring along the top, and this has some extreme battle damage on the side that you can open and close, which is really cool. And with this figure, you can move the legs and the arms, and you can use the tail to chomp the head. These are our last two dinosaurs of the bin. We've got another Ceratosaurus. This one is from the Hammond collection versus a huge Velociraptor blue figure. The Ceratosaurus figure is a lot bigger in size in terms of its torso. Look at this difference between this skinny Velociraptor and this huge Ceratosaurus figure. And since this is a basic Velociraptor blue figure, there's not a ton of detailing and you can only move the arms and legs. But with the Ceratosaurus, since it's from the Hammond collection, has a lot more awesome detailing and coloring, and you can adjust the arms, the legs, the tail, and the head in all sorts of different poses. Figure is featuring some custom gray skin and some bright red eyes, and I love the teeth on this figure. They're a lot darker than a lot of dinosaur teeth. So we're gonna put this one at the very left because it is the biggest one of this collection. Our next biggest apex predator in this collection is this super colossal Velociraptor Blue. This giant figure features some dark gray blue skin, it's got the iconic blue stripe running down the sides, and it has some white, shorter teeth compared to the T-Rex. Let's set it down right next to the super colossal T-Rex. All right, let's see. Next up in size is probably this Indominus Rex figure. This figure, although a little bit smaller than the super colossal, is one of the biggest predators that I have, and this one is actually the battle damage edition that you can turn on and off with the click of a button. It also has an adjustable head and a button at the end of its tail that activates the jaw. Next up in size, we've got this awesome colored Spinosaurus figure. Now this figure was custom colored, which is why you'll see a lot more detail with the coloring and the shading compared to many of the other figures. Even the teeth are a much dirtier, nastier color, which I love. Looks totally realistic. Let's grab our next dinosaur, which is this huge Pyroraptor figure. Now this figure is actually pretty special because it is battery operated and it responds to you. So let's tap it on the head and see what happens. Look at that. Its eyes change, it's moving around. Looks pretty angry right now. And you can touch its chin as well. It'll respond to you there. It's pretty cool. Check that out. Now its eyes are green, which means it's more friendly. All right, let's set it down right next to the Spinosaurus. Next up in size is one of my proudest dinosaur figures in my entire collection. I actually custom painted this Stomp and Escape T-Rex. It's got some brown on the top, green on the sides, and then the light yellow underbelly as well. This for sure is one of my best repaints, and it's next in size, so let's put it down right next to the Pyroraptor. For our next biggest apex predator, we've got another T-Rex figure right here. This one is also in a green color, and it also has the black stripes on the top of its body and some on its face as well. And it has a button on the top of its head that you can use to open and close its mouth. Next up in size is actually a vintage figure from Jurassic Park. This is a Utah Raptor figure, and it stands almost as tall as the Jurassic World T-Rexes. And this figure, since it's one of the old Jurassic Park ones, it actually has rubber skin, so it feels quite a bit different and looks a bit different too. It's a lot less shiny. Over here is one of my favorite apex predator dinosaurs. This is the Carnotaurus. I love the coloring on this dinosaur, and I love the way it looks. It looks kind of like a T-Rex, but it's got some horns on the top of its head, and it's got much smaller arms too. This is a totally awesome figure, so let's set it down right next to the Utah Raptor. Up next, let's see, I think it's probably the Carcharodontosaurus figure right here. This figure features a dark blue body with some orange and dark brown detailing, and it has a button on its back that you can press for the chomping action. Let's set this down right next to the Carnotaurus. Next up, let's go with the Albertosaurus figure. And this one is actually a special edition Albertosaurus because it has the battle damage right on the side that you can open and close. You can even move the ribs up and down too. And check that out, it's got some slashes on its body as well. Let's put this next in line. Next in line is an Allosaurus figure. And this figure features a slide lever button on its back to activate roars and to open and close the jaws too. And it's pretty similar inside to the Albertosaurus, so let's put it right next to it. Next, I've got this Baryonyx figure with battle damage featured all over its body. It's got some on its leg, its neck, and there's an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Now, it's pretty close in size to an Allosaurus figure, but check out the difference in size between their bodies. The Allosaurus is way bigger. Check it out, I've actually got another Baryonyx figure. This one features the green, dark green, and brown coloring on its body. And it's got a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. And this figure is basically the same size as the Baryonyx right next to it. Check it out, we've got another T-Rex figure. This is the Sound Surge Edition T-Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. So let's set it down right next to the Baryonyx figure, just a little bit smaller. Over here is a yellow Cryolophosaurus figure. Check out the crown on the top of its head. That's really cool. Plus, with this figure, you can use its tail to move its head around in a real lifelike way. All right, let's set it down next in size. This next figure is a Ceratosaurus figure in the dark green coloring with the black detailing on the top. And like many of the newer figures, it has a slide lever action on its back to activate the jaw and the sound effects. For our next apex predator, we've got our first Dilophosaurus figure of this collection. This is an older figure and it features an action when you move the tail, it moves its head back and forth. All right, we're getting down to the much smaller figures. This next figure is another old Jurassic World figure. This one is a T-Rex. It's got the bright green coloring with some battle damage on the side, and you can use the tail to move the head. This next Jurassic World apex predator is a Spinosaurus in some crazy coloring. It's got the bright red spine with stripes and the blue body as well. And check it out, there's even a little battle damage on the side too. Let's set it down right next to the T-Rex. This figure is the Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Velociraptor. It's got a button on the top of its back that you can use to reveal the battle damage right on the side. Here is another Velociraptor figure. This one is a bit older than the Dominion Velociraptor that we just saw, and it has a soft green body with the darker green on top. Next, we've got an Atrociraptor figure that I'm sure you recognize from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. Let's set this down right next to the Velociraptors. Our next apex predator is the Dimetrodon dinosaur. This figure features a huge spine running along its back and adjustable limbs and jaw as well. We're gonna set this one up in front of the other line because we're running out of space. So let's go to our final dinosaur, which is a Snap Squad Carnotaurus. Once again, one of my favorite dinosaurs. Let's set this right at the end. gonna start with this old Jurassic Park T-Rex figure. This T-Rex figure has the real feel skin, so it's actually rubber instead of hard plastic. And when you press on the stomach, it opens and closes its mouth, although it doesn't work too well anymore. It's pretty old. And our first prey is this Dino Tracker's Stegosaurus. This is one of my newest Stegosaurus figures. It has this awesome backpack. There's some pretty cool coloring and detailing all over its body too. For the next mighty T-Rex, we're gonna go with this bright orange one, I believe from Fallen Kingdom. This figure features posable arms and legs, and you can use the tail for a roaring action or for a chomping action. This is one of the few dinosaur figures that has this type of chomping action. For our next prey, we're gonna go with the Amargosaurus figure. This dinosaur stands on all four legs, it has the super long neck, and these two really tall spine or frill things running down its neck all the way to its tail, and has an action button to move its neck and to move its tail too. This T-Rex figure is from the most recent Jurassic World movie, which was Dominion. It has the darker brown body with the black top, it has posable arms and legs, and on this figure you can move the tail side to side to move its torso and to open and close its jaw. Our next predator is actually another carnivore. This is the Baryonyx figure, and this one specifically has the bright orange paint on the top of its head. But let me know in the comments, do you think that T-Rexes hunted Baryonyxes? Back to the T-Rex side, we've got a T-Rex from the original Jurassic World movie. And like many figures from that movie, this figure is actually made by Hasbro, not Mattel, who makes all the new figures today. This figure has some sound effects. You can pose it in a roaring pose, and you can move its tail down for a chomping action. For the next prey, we've got an Iguanodon figure. I believe this one is also from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a medium-sized figure and it actually has an action. When you press down on its back, it chomps its head. This next T-Rex I got very recently. This is actually a custom painted T-Rex figure. You can see right here that it is also a battle damage T-Rex that you can still turn on and off, which is pretty awesome, and I love this camo coloring. This prey herbivore figure is the Hammond Collection Triceratops. Unlike many of the other Triceratops figures, this one has much more natural coloring. It does have a lighter underbelly, and there's some detailing along its face. I really love the detail on its horns. It makes it look really worn. Up next for the T-Rexes is actually another custom painted T-Rex that I got probably a few weeks ago. This figure is called, I think it's like the Terran T-Rex or something like that, and it has an action button on its back that you can use for the tearing action, and another button on its back to move the tail too. And this custom paint job has a much more realistic look, I think. You can see different shades of brown, and then of course it has the lighter underbelly. But the coolest part, I think, are all the battle damage slashes that the artist added onto this figure. So I think this is a lot more battle damage than this Terran T-Rex originally had. I think this next unusual dinosaur could also have been prey for T-Rex dinosaurs. This is a Sarcosuchus, and I believe there's two different versions of this figure. And this one has the green body with the brown on the top, and of course the super long jaw that you can open and close with a button on its tail. This T-Rex figure is a dark green color, and one of the only few, I think, that is naturally dark green. This was not custom painted. Its arms and legs and tail are posable like many of the other figures, and it has a button on the top of its head for the chomping action. Our next prey is an Ankylosaurus. This figure, I think, is from the Camp Cretaceous series, and it features the clay red underbelly and then the brown armoring on top with the tan spikes. And this figure features an attack action when you press down on its back. Back to the T-Rex side, we've got the Camp Cretaceous Epic Roarin' T-Rex. I think this T-Rex figure might actually be a little bit larger than many of the other T-Rex figures, and it features the movable arms and legs, and by moving the tail, you can move the T-Rex's head and open and close the jaw. Next up for the prey, I've got another Stegosaurus figure. This one is quite a bit older. It features the blue-green coloring on the sides. It's got a lighter yellow underbelly. And like many of the Stegosaurus figures, it has an attack button when you press down on one of its spines. Here's another battle damage T-Rex. This figure, kind of like the custom painted Terran T-Rex, has battle damage painted on its body, some on its neck, a little bit on its chin, and elsewhere on its body too. And other than that, you can move its arms, you can adjust its legs and its tail, and it has the button at the top of the head for roaring. Back to the prey side, we've got, I believe, a Sinoceratops. This figure is in the light blue-gray coloring. It's also got some bright yellow and orange coloring on the front of its face. And by moving the tail, you can move the head, and it has sound effects too. These next two T-Rexes are a bit smaller in size than many of the other ones. This first one here is the Sound Surge T-Rex that came out for Jurassic World Dominion, and it's pretty small and it's a hard plastic compared to this Jurassic Park. I believe it's a juvenile T-Rex, and this figure has the real feel skin, so almost its whole body is this soft rubber. And this figure has some epic battle damage on its side, but no sound effects. However, the Sound Surge obviously does have sound effects. For our next prey figure, we're gonna go with one that might be a little controversial. It is a Velociraptor. Do you think that T-Rexes hunted Velociraptors? This figure is the basic Velociraptor, so you can pose its tail, its legs, and its arms, but it doesn't come with any sound effects or attack buttons. Next up for the T-Rexes is a figure that is very special to me. This is a Stomp and Escape T-Rex that I custom painted myself. And let's actually compare this painting with the original version. So here is the original paint job. You can see that it's mostly brown and it has some gray detailing along the top of its body. And compare that with what I did. So it still has a lot of brown on the top, but it's got this really nice green color running all the way up to its face. And then, of course, the bright yellow underbelly. I think it's pretty cool, and it is one of the figures I am the most proud of. The next prey figure is another scary-looking carnivore, but it still might have been hunted by the T-Rex. This is the Suchomimus figure, and I think there are two different versions of this figure. This one is in the blue with the yellow detailing running down its spine, and it has one action button for the chomping action. Next, let's go ahead and open up this brand new one that I bought for this video. This is the Jurassic World Legacy Collection Extreme Chompin' T-Rex. All right, here it is. It's another bright orange T-Rex with the darker brown on top and the light underbelly. It has the posable arms, it's got the posable legs, and the tail as well. And you can actually move the neck and head around quite a lot too. But don't forget, it also has the chomping button on the top of its head. Our next prey is another Triceratops figure. I believe that this one is from Jurassic World Dominion, and it has some unusual colors on it. There's this soft green color in the back, and then it has this more swampy green color running up all the way to its face, and it has the orange on the top of its frill too. And this figure features an attack button when you press down on its body. This next T-Rex is an extreme battle damage T-Rex. It has the light underbelly with brown on the sides and then the gray detailing on the top. And I think this T-Rex might have been what this originally looked like. So check out those differences in the coloring now. They look totally different. For our next prey, we've got another Iguanodon figure, but this one actually came out quite recently. I believe it was released as a pack with a Scorpiovinator figure. And this Iguanodon has the light tan on the sides with the darker brown on top, and it has an attack button when you press down on its back. Our next T-Rex is the Mighty Bull T-Rex from Jurassic Park. You can see the leg tattoo right there. And like many of the older figures, this has the real feel skin, so it's a soft rubber over most of its body. And something that's pretty unique for the older Jurassic Park figures, this T-Rex can actually swallow smaller dinosaurs. And you can see the stomach compartment right there. This prey figure is the Herrerasaurus, and I believe this dinosaur is also a carnivore, but I think it was plenty small enough to be hunted by T-Rexes. And this Herrerasaurus figure features the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Next, let's grab this huge super colossal T-Rex that's been hanging out in the back. This figure is also a custom colored T-Rex, and it is now in the dark green coloring with the black striping along the top. This figure might be one of my oldest super colossal figures. It definitely has a lot of wear and tear to it. Next up for the prey, I've got a small Parasaurolophus figure. Now it doesn't have any action buttons, but you can still pose its arms, its legs, its tail, and of course its head. And here's another classic T-Rex figure with a light brown and dark brown along the top, and a fully posable body, and the jaw chomping action. For our final prey and dinosaur of this collection is a baby Brachiosaurus figure. This one comes in a few different versions, and this is the light green on the sides and the dark green along the top. Let's get started with one of the biggest Dominion predators that I have. This is the new T-Rex figure. This newest T-Rex figure has a ginormous head, the tiny arms that are classic for a T-Rex, and you can use the tail to move the torso around and open and close the jaw. Our first Camp Cretaceous predator is this huge Spinosaurus figure in the tan, brown, and red coloring. This figure is quite adjustable. It has much larger arms than the T-Rex figure, and you can move the head in all different directions and open and close its jaw. This predator over here from Jurassic World Dominion is the Giganotosaurus. And this is one of the biggest stars in the new movie. It has a pretty awesome spine running along its back. It looks pretty sharp and dangerous. And this figure has two features. The first swings its torso back and forth, and the second opens and closes its jaw. Next, let's grab one of these huge, super colossal Camp Cretaceous predators. This is the Indominus Rex, and this figure is so much larger than all the other figures I have. It's got some spikes on the back of its neck, even on its elbows. It's got some huge claws, and of course, the iconic teeth. Back to the Dominion side, we've got a huge Allosaurus figure. This figure also stands on its two hind legs. It's got some medium-sized front arms, and it has a button on its back to control the jaw. And there's battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Let's go ahead and grab this other super colossal figure from Camp Cretaceous. This figure is a Carnotaurus, and it is actually the Carnotaurus Toro figure. It's got little spikes running down all of its back. It's got some huge horns on the top of its head, and on the other side of its head, it actually has a huge battle damage scar. That is really cool. This Dominion predator is the Dino Tractor Endoraptor figure. It's got a really cool dark blue reflective painting all over its body, along with the classic gold stripe down both sides. And this figure has some pretty cool features. First, you can use the arms to twist its head around and open its mouth. And there's also a button on its back that activates the jaw just by itself. Check out those eyes that light up too. Here is our first T-Rex predator from Camp Cretaceous. This figure has the tiny front arms and the huge back legs. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck, move it all around in all sorts of different directions, and look super realistic. But wait, we've also got a T-Rex figure from Jurassic World Dominion. This predator has the battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off, and the coloring is quite a bit different from the Camp Cretaceous version. It's a lot darker, there's some orange, and then even the top is different as well. This is a much smaller Carnotaurus Toro figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got a much darker red coloring than the super colossal version we saw, although it still has the battle damage scar right on its nose. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck around and open and close its jaw. Check out those sound effects too. Our next Dominion predator is actually a brand new one that I'm gonna open up right here today. This is the Scorpio Venator from the Roar Strikers series. This dinosaur species kind of reminds me of a Carnotaurus, although its snout is a lot shorter and it doesn't have the horns on the top of its head. And it's got some pretty cool coloring as well, with the yellow, the dark blue, and the white. And this figure has an action where you press down on its body and it chomps. This Camp Cretaceous predator is the Scorpios Rex figure, and I've actually got two of them right here. This one is the larger one though. This one has a dark blue coloring and the black on top with two action buttons. The first activates its jaw, and the second activates its slashing arms. Plus, it has a spring-loaded tail so you can swing those poisonous quills back and forth. Here is my second Scorpios Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's a bit smaller, and you can see it has green coloring instead of the dark blue and the yellow underbelly as well. And this figure is quite adjustable. You can move its arms, its elbows, you can move its legs and knees and the tail around as well, but there is no action button for this one, so you have to control all the parts manually. This predator from Jurassic World Dominion is the Rajasaurus. I've actually got two figures of this species, and this one is in the light brown and dark blue coloring. It's got some interesting spikes and a horn on the top of its head, and it has a chomping action when you press down on its body. Up next from Camp Cretaceous is the Cryolophosaurus figure. I've also got two of this species as well. This one is in the dark blue, white, and red coloring, and it comes with a ton of sound effects and a tail that moves the head around. This predator is the Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a basic figure, so it doesn't have a whole lot going on with its coloring, but it's got some cool texturing with the feathers you can see on its tail, as well as on the top of its head too. Back here from Dominion as well is another raptor, but this one is actually a Mega Raptor figure. It's got some similar red coloring with some dark blue, and this figure has a chomping action when you press down on its body. This predator from Camp Cretaceous is the Sarcosuchus. It has some pretty bright and crazy coloring that you probably wouldn't see out in the wild, with the purple, there's some red and orange, and then the blue underbelly. But this one has a really long snout with tons of teeth, which I think is a really cool feature. Plus, you can operate the jaw by pressing the button on the tail. Here's a dinosaur that probably not too many people are familiar with. This is the Yangchuanosaurus. It stands on its two back legs, it has some medium-sized front arms, it's got a bright crown on the top of its head, and some cool ridges that run all the way down its neck. And this figure features two actions. You can use the tail to twist the torso back and forth, and the button on the tail activates the jaw. This dark green Albertosaurus figure is from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the orange stripe running down both sides of its body. And while there's not a whole lot that you can move on this figure, there is an action button on its tail, both to move the head around and to open and close the jaw. Here is another one of my newest figures in the Dominion collection. This is from the Dino Trackers series. This is, I believe it's pronounced an Eocarcharia. It's got the feather texturing all over its body, just like the Pyroraptor, and it has an action slide on its back used to open its mouth and twist its neck back and forth. This is the Dominion Atrociraptor, and I think it's one of the first Atrociraptors in this collection. This one is a pretty basic figure, so you can move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but it doesn't have any action buttons or features. This predator is the Baryonyx figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the green and brown body, and an action button on its back to activate its long jaw. Here is the second Giganotosaurus of this predator collection. This is a much smaller version of the Giganotosaurus, but it still has the same awesome coloring, and it comes with sound effects as well. Over here from Camp Cretaceous, we've got another Baryonyx figure. It has similar coloring with the green and brown, and also an action button on its back to activate its jaw. Now check out this Atrociraptor figure from Dominion. This is part of the Rowdy Roars collection. You can press the button on the top of its head for sound effects and some movement. And you can touch its jaw and it'll move around as well. Here is our last Camp Cretaceous predator of this collection. This is the Ceratosaurus. It's got the huge horn on the top of its head and the classic Ceratosaurus coloring, and a slide lever action for sound effects and moving the jaw. And here is a much smaller Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the broken horn on the top of its head and very different coloring compared to the Camp Cretaceous Carnotaurus figures. This figure is ginormous. I think it might be one of the largest Predator figures that I have in my Jurassic World collection, aside from these super colossal figures. And it's also got these action buttons on its back. One for slashing the claws, and one to activate the jaws. How cool is that? Plus, there's even lights down its throat that you can kind of see on the outside too. Next up, we've got a massive Spinosaurus figure. This figure is the light tan with the dark brown and red along the spine. It is very poseable, and its neck is very movable, which is really cool. Plus, there's a button on the top of its head to activate the jaw. And check out all those teeth, too. Right over here is our first prey of the bin. This is a Triceratops figure with the dark green coloring. It's got some brown detailing along the top and on the front as well. And this figure actually has two action buttons on its back. One is to lift the head up and down for striking with those awesome horns, and the second button swings the tail back and forth. I bet that would hurt if you got hit by this in real life too. Next up, another Predator, the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex with the gray-brown coloring and the dark brown on top. This figure is very poseable as well. It's got a decent amount of detailing in the coloring. I like how they fade from the dark brown to the gray-brown coloring. And of course, it's got the button on the top of its head to activate the jaw. Here is another T-Rex Predator. This figure is the Stomp and Escape T-Rex. This one has some very different detailing than the T-Rex that we just saw. It's got these splotches all over its back with the lighter underbelly and the darker coloring right around its eyes too. And this figure has two action buttons. The first one is for the roaring. That's really cool how it lifts its whole neck up. And the second action is actually when you twist the tails, it stomps its feet up and down with sound effects. Here's a small prey from Camp Cretaceous. This is the gray and dark purple Brachiosaurus. It's actually a baby Brachiosaurus, but it's still quite movable and poseable. You can move the neck, the legs, and you can even open and close the jaw too. So even though it's pretty small, it's still a pretty cool figure. On to another Predator figure. This figure was made famous by the first Jurassic World movie. This is a Mosasaurus, and this figure is huge. And it's even larger in real life as well compared to the other dinosaurs. It's got this dark blue body with white splotches all over. You can open and close the jaw, you can move all the fins, and you can even swing the tail back and forth too. Right here, we've got, I believe this is the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus figure. So it's kind of funny because it looks almost like a baby Carnotaurus. It's got these huge feet and a huge head, and then this small body. Plus, it actually comes with a few actions as well. There's a button at the bottom of its tail for the chomping. It's pretty cool. You can see it swings its neck forward. And there's also a button on the top of its head for blinking and more sound effects. Right over here is another Carnotaurus Predator figure. This one has the light gray coloring on the underbelly and that same orange-red coloring on its side and the brown on top. Of course, it's got those iconic horns at the top of its head, those yellow eyes, and it has a few action features as well. You can open and close the mouth using a button on its tail, and you can twist its head in all directions to look really lifelike. Next up, I've actually got some brand new Camp Cretaceous sets that we're gonna open up right now. Let's check out this first one. This is the Ben and Ankylosaurus Bumpy set from the Dino Escape. It looks a little opened up already, but I think it still has most of the pieces. Let's check it out. See the spear over here? And let's go ahead and get Ben out of here and check him out. All right, so the Ben figure actually comes with this awesome little shield and this spear that he can hold. Plus, the figure itself has some pretty cool detailing. The figure looks dirty as if it's been in the jungle and in the wild, so pretty lifelike. And of course, we've got the cute little Ankylosaurus Bumpy with the iconic blue coloring on the top and the yellow underbelly. And even though this figure is pretty small, you can even twist the tail around and adjust that, and move the legs and twist the neck around too. So there's a lot that you can move around on this figure. I've got one more brand new Camp Cretaceous set to open up. This is the Camp Adventure set. All right, this set comes with 4 figurines. The first is this giant Stegosaurus figure, which is a prey dinosaur, and it's got the gray-blue body with the darker coloring right along the top, You can move the neck around a little bit, you can adjust all the legs, and it has an action button that swings its tail back and forth. Next in the set, we've got a Baryonyx figure. That's really cool. I have a few other Baryonyx figures like this. This one has the light green coloring along most of its body, and then it has the dark brown detailing along some of its leg and along the top as well, while its head is a lighter brown color. Plus, there is an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Next in the set, we've got Darius with the iconic yellow sweater and the blue pants. This figure even has the dinosaur tooth necklace around their neck. How cool is that? And last of all, and smallest of all, is another Ankylosaurus Bumpy figure. This figure is super small though, and actually none of the parts move. Oh, you know what? The tail moves back and forth. How cool is that? But that's the only part that moves on this teeny tiny figure. All right, back to the bin. Let's see what other predators and preys we have. We've got another giant T-Rex figure with the light brown coloring on the side and darker brown on the top. You can wiggle the tail around, you can adjust the ankles and move the legs. And of course, it's got the button on the top of its head to activate the jaws. I really like with these figures how you can pose their neck in all directions and it actually stays looking in that direction. Right over here, we've got two prey figures of the same species. These are both Triceratops. You can tell because they have the 3 horns on the front of their face. This first one is a lot larger and has the clay red coloring and one action button on its back to move its head up and down. And the smaller Triceratops figure is a light green in color, and this figure has a really cool feature on the side of its body, which is the battle damage that you can open and close. I really like these because you can choose to hide the battle damage or open it up and show it. We've got more awesome predator figures in here. This is the Albertosaurus with the green body and the orange detailing on the side. And this figure, you can use the tail to twist the head back and forth, as well as open and close the jaw. Here is an Allosaurus figure, and I've actually got a few more Allosaurus figures in here, so let's check these out one at a time. This first one is a dark green color. It's got some red and white detailing right along its neck and its head. It's got those dark red eyes, which I think is really cool. And this figure has the slide lever action to open the jaw and get a bunch of sound effects too. This next Allosaurus figure is gray and light yellow. You can move all the limbs on this one. This one has some yellow eyes, and it has one action button on its back to activate the jaws. And here is the final Allosaurus of the bin. This is a brown and dark blue Allosaurus. It looks very much the same as the other figures. It's got the yellow eyes on this figure, as well as the spikes going down its neck, and the slide lever action for different roar sound effects. And a bunch of different poses too. Here's another prey figure. This is a Sauropelta. It has the bright red top and the brown underbelly and those super huge spikes coming out of its shoulders. It's got a whole row. It's actually got 2 rows on each side. And this figure is actually spring-loaded, so you can swing it back and forth to attack with those spikes. Next up, we've got another Rowdy Roars figure. This is an Indominus Rex. It looks very much the same as the Rowdy Roars Carnotaurus. It's got the big feet, the giant head, and the small body, and it actually has some actions as well. You can use the tail to open the jaw, and then you can press on the tongue to snap it shut. And there is a button on its nose as well to activate more sound effects. I've got some smaller prey in here as well. Check out these Gallimimus figures. They look pretty identical, but this one is a darker orange coloring with brown stripes, and this one is much lighter. And they both have the same movements. You can move all the limbs, you can twist the tail, and you can move the necks up and down as well. Next up, I believe, is the Ceratosaurus figure. This figure is gray, it's got some dark brown, and then the bright red along its back, which is a really cool color scheme, I think. It's got the action button on its back to activate the jaw as well. Here is our first winged predator of the bin. This is a Pteranodon, and this one actually has some battle damage on its wings. You can see that there's a hole in its wing right there. Plus, you can actually open up more battle damage right on its back. Looks like I've got a few more Baryonyx figures in here as well. This first one is another light green with the brown detailing along the top. It's got the action button on its back for chomping. And I've also got this battle damage baryonyx as well. This one is a darker red color with some blue detailing on the top. It's got a lighter color along the top of its head, and you can see the battle damage on its neck, on its leg, and it looks like that's about it. But it also has an action button to activate the jaw as well. Next up is another prey from Camp Cretaceous. This is the Stegosaurus with the brown, light tan, and green coloring. It's very much similar to the Stegosaurus that we saw earlier, including an action button to swing its tail back and forth, but this one actually has another feature that when you press down here, it moves its neck up and down. The next predator is a Metriacanthosaurus in the bright red coloring with the brown detailing and the light orange along its head and its nose as well. This figure also has the action button on its back to activate the jaw. Right over here, we've got a Pachycephalosaurus figurine. This is light tan along the sides, it's a bit brighter along its belly, and it has the dark gray-blue detailing along its top and on its legs too. Plus, this figure has an action button that when you move the tail, it does the headbutting action. So this figure is actually spring-loaded. All right, check it out. We've got a few raptor figures in here. Velociraptors to be exact. This first one is the green Velociraptor. It is in a sneaking pose. It's crawling along the ground, looking for some prey. And I've also got this blue Velociraptor with some awesome detailing and even the gold on the top of its head. That's a really cool feature. I think this is my only Velociraptor with reflective gold on its head. Next up, I've got a few Monolophosaurus figures in here, all with different coloring. This first one is super bright green. It's got the darker green along the top and an action button. When you push down on the tail, it opens and closes its jaw. I've also got these other Monolophosaurus. This one is like a light red color with almost purple coloring along its back, and it also has the action button to open and close its jaw. And this Monolophosaurus is dark green with some bright yellow and red coloring along the top, and it also has the action button to open and close its jaw using the tail. Here we've got a few more prey figures from Camp Cretaceous. This first one is a Stygimoloch figure and is really small, but it's still quite poseable. You can move the head in all directions, you can twist the tail and move the limbs. And this figure, I believe, is the Protoceratops. It's got the light purple body with some brighter yellow coloring along the top and on the front as well. And it's got some bright yellow eyes too. Looks like we've got two more winged predators in here. These both, I believe, are Dimorphodons. This first one is a lot brighter. It's got like some fire detailing on the underside of its wings, and the rest of its body is a darker red. And this figure has some purplish coloring along the underside of its wings, while the rest of its body is a gray color. Just a few small figures left. We've got another Gallimimus figure, this one with different coloring. It actually has yellow and brown striping along its back, all the way up to its head. I've also got, I think this is a Troodon figure. It's kind of funny because it looks like it's got a mohawk, but those are actually just the spines going all the way down its back. It's got some cool coloring as well. And then, of course, I've got a Dilophosaurus figure with the light coloring along its body and the red along its frills. Plus, this figure has an action that when you move the tail, its frills activate. And last of all, I've got some of the Camp Cretaceous human character figurines. We've even got Darius again, we've got Brooklyn, and all these figures, each with their own unique looks. This is the Soundstrike Irritator. Let's go ahead and open it up. All right, this is a really cool looking dinosaur. Check out that super tall spine along its back. It's got light blue and dark blue along its back, all the way up to its neck. This dinosaur has two actions. First, a thrashing action with the tail and the head. The second is a chomping action with the tail, moves the head up and down. That is super cool, and I love the sound effects on this one too. Next up, we've got a Jurassic World Dominion Pyroraptor. Let's check it out. All right, this is actually the first Pyroraptor of my collection, so I'm super excited to check it out. Most of its body is a clay red color. It's got some brighter red right on the top here, and then the back side of it is a black color. On this figure, the tail moves, the legs move, you can twist the ankles too, as well as the arms. But the jaw doesn't open and close on this one. Overall, this figure looks pretty cool. Next up, we've got a Jurassic World Dominion Atrociraptor. Let's open it up. All right, so this Atrociraptor is basically the exact same size as the Pyroraptor, and it looks pretty cool, it looks pretty ferocious. Its body's all white except for those black-brown stripes. It's got those red eyes right there. And just like the Pyroraptor, you can move the tail, the legs, and the arms, but the jaw and the head doesn't move at all. Next up, we've got this old Jurassic World Special Edition Indominus Rex. Look at all the crazy coloring on this Indominus Rex. That is really cool. That is really cool. And it's got a button right here that launches the spikes out. Next up, we've got a super detailed Giganotosaurus. This is a super cool model because look at the attention to detail all over its body. See, it's got the green eyes, it's got tons of teeth, and those actually look pretty sharp. And the skin all over its body looks super realistic and textured. That is really cool. The only part that moves on this dinosaur though is the jaw. Here, we've got a super old Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is from the Jurassic Park line. Its body is all green and orange right up to the head. And this T-Rex can actually eat miniature dinosaurs too. It has a tunnel that goes all the way down to its stomach, and you can get the miniature dinosaurs out right here. How cool is that? Here we've got another Indominus Rex. This one is normally colored, as you can see, and is one of the older Jurassic World dinosaurs. This figure is pretty big. It's probably about 2 feet long, and it comes with some actions. When you pull down on the arm, it opens and closes its mouth. And you can move the legs, and check it out. Its whole head and neck is super rubbery, and the rest of its body is a hard plastic. Right up top here, we've got a Tyrannosaurus Rex with battle damage that you can turn on and off. Just like that, with a click of a button. That is super cool, and the rest of the figure is fully posable as well, with the tail, the legs, the ankles, the arms, the neck, and the mouth. Next up, we've got a custom colored Indominus Rex. Look at how differently this one looks. It's got the bright blue on the underbelly, leads up to the purple on the sides, and then that orange detailing right along the black. And check out all those spikes and those green eyes too. This is a really cool custom colored dinosaur. Here is another Indominus Rex. This one has battle damage, just like that T-Rex we saw earlier, that you can turn on and off. That is so cool, and this figure is fully posable as well. Here we've got a super colorful Velociraptor. This dinosaur is super posable. You can move basically every joint in its body. And it's got that awesome green-blue coloring along its whole body with all that gray detailing throughout. Next up, we've got a bright predator called the Majungasaurus. This dinosaur has some teeny tiny little arms up front. It's got a big tail with spikes on the underside, and some blue and yellow detailing right on the top and on its face. Here is a totally different colored predator. This is the Rajasaurus. It's got a brown body and a gray-blue detailing along the top. It's got those spines right along its neck and a little horn right on the top of its head. Here is a Carnotaurus. It's got a clay red body with a darker brown along the top. You can move the arms and the legs and the tail. and the tail actually controls the head so you can move it around. Here we've got a ferocious beast from the Jurassic World movies. This is a Scorpios Rex. It's got an all black body with a yellow underbelly, and this dinosaur has two actions. First is with the jaw, and the second is a slashing action with this button. Here, we've got another T-Rex, but this is a hybrid T-Rex because it's got those huge spines on its back that you can actually close and hide. And then when you press this button on its back, they'll pop out. That is super cool and super interesting coloring on this too. It's green with gold on the top and the bottom, and it's got this interesting pattern right along its side. Here is a medium-sized Spinosaurus. This one is all green except for the white and red along its spine and the red right around its eyes too. This is a medium-sized Velociraptor. It can move its legs and its arms, but you can't close its mouth. Its body is mostly brown with gray striping along the top. Here is another T-Rex, but totally different colored. You can see that this dinosaur is from the older Jurassic World toy series. Its body is all tan with a slightly lighter underbelly, and it's got an action button on the top that controls the jaw. This is the Albertosaurus with the all green body and battle damage. With this battle damage, you can open it up and you can actually pull down the ribs or push them back up to reveal the stomach inside, and it's actually a little squishy. Plus, it's got some battle damage right here too. This is an Indominus Rex and super detailed. This thing has more spikes than many of the other Indominus Rexes that I have. That's really cool. And the only thing that moves in this model is the mouth. This is a Suchomimus. It's all yellow and brown, and it comes with two action buttons. One that controls the face, and one that controls the tail. Right over here, we've got a model of an Indoraptor. It's an all black body with the yellow and orange detailing on the sides and all along its spikes right there. That is really cool. And it's in a crouching position as if it's sneaking along. That's so awesome. This is a Ceratosaurus. It's got a gray underbelly and red and black detailing on the tops and sides. Check out that horn right up top too. This predator is a Baryonyx. It's got a brown body with a dark gray detailing on the top and bright orange accenting right on top of its head. This, I believe, is another Ceratosaurus, but this one is a dark green with black accenting along the top. You can see it's got a bunch of bumps right along the top of its body too. This Ceratosaurus has a slide action, so you can actually get a few different roars from it. Here is another medium-sized Velociraptor. This one, though, is a tan color with green striping along the top, and you can move the arms and legs, but the mouth is stuck open just like that. Here is a medium-sized Tyrannosaurus Rex model, and look at all the shading and detail to its body too. I really like this one because of how cool it looks with the clay red coloring alongside the black. This is a Cryolophosaurus. It's got an all yellow body with brown detailing on the top and that bright orange right on the top of its head. Plus, with this dinosaur, you can move the tail to control the head. Here is a giant winged predator. This is a Pteranodon. It's got an all blue underbelly and the bottom of its wings, and on the top, it's got a dark red with some white accenting on its wings. Next up, we've got an Allosaurus. Check out the yellow underbelly and the blue detailing on its legs and the top of its body and its face. And this Allosaurus has 2 action buttons. The first controls the jaw and the second controls the arms. We've got another old Jurassic World toy series Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I believe this one has custom coloring. It's got an all red body with black spots, a yellow underbelly, and yellow eyes. Here is another Carnotaurus, but this one is smaller than the other figures we've seen, and it's actually a little bit rubbery. You can actually kind of bend the legs a little bit, but it's still got those 2 giant horns on its head. Right over here, we've got a few more Indominus Rexes. They're a little differently sized, and they're both from the old Jurassic World toy lines. Both of them have battle damage. This one is always visible, but on this figure, you can actually hide the battle damage. And they both come with an action that when you move down the tail, they chomp. Right over here, we've got a super brightly colored Dilophosaurus. Check out the bright blue along its body, and in the very front, super bright yellow and red. This dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus, and it's got a yellow-green color on the underbelly and on the sides, and on the very top is a darker green. Plus, there's an action button that controls the jaw. Right over here is a smaller dinosaur. This is a Masiakasaurus. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. And it has an all-green body with brighter green right along the top, plus an action button to control the head and the neck. Here we've got another Endoraptor. This Endoraptor is all black aside from the detailing right along the side. And you can control the arms, the legs, and the tail, but there's no button to open and close the jaw. This is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Check it out, it's got the black stripes right along its body. Its torso is actually pretty big, and this figure is standing in a roaring pose, just like that. This is a Carnotaurus from the new Jurassic World Dominion toy line. You can see that one of the horns is broken off, just like in the movie. And you can move its legs, its arms, its neck, and its head. Here is a super interesting looking dinosaur. It looks like it has feathers all over its body. I think it might be a T-Rex, but I can't quite tell. But how crazy is that? Look at those feathers right along the top of its head too. Here is a smaller Ceratosaurus. This is an older Jurassic World toy, and it's got battle damage right there on the side too. I think it's out of batteries, but normally it would light up. Plus, when you pull down on the tail, it opens and closes its jaw. Ooh, here's another old Jurassic World toy. I actually can't tell what type of dinosaur this is. Maybe an Allosaurus, I can't tell. But it's got a little bit of damage on the side and super brightly colored. It's got that yellow and red all along its body. Here are a few more Velociraptors, and look at the size difference too. This is an older Jurassic World Velociraptor, and this is a newer one. This one is dark brown with gray stripes along the top and battle damage, and you can actually control the tail to move the mouth. And on this Velociraptor, it's a lot smaller, but just as adjustable. You can even open and close the mouth by hand. All right, another model Tyrannosaurus Rex. This one is a dark green color and is in that roaring pose too. Check it out. Here are some interesting looking dinosaurs. I believe this one is a Herrerasaurus. And this dinosaur is fully adjustable with the legs, the arms, the neck, and the mouth too. And this dinosaur is from the old Jurassic Park toy line. I actually can't quite tell what type of dinosaur this is. I'm unfamiliar with this one. Up next, I bet you recognize this from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Dimetrodon. It's got that bright orange accenting right along its spine and the yellow along its body. And this front arm right here controls its mouth. We've got a few more T-Rexes in here. This is another model T-Rex, a bit smaller than the others. It's got a yellow underbelly and brown and black top. It's got those red eyes too. And these other T-Rexes are from the old Jurassic World toy line. Check out this bright orange one. This is actually a hybrid dinosaur. It's got gold right along the top with the black stripes. Plus, it's got an action that when you move the tail, it controls its face. Same with this T-Rex too. This T-Rex though is bright green with battle damage on the side. And when you control the tail, the mouth moves. Next up, we've got a new dinosaur from the Jurassic World Dominion movies. This is an Atrociraptor. It's in that sneaking pose. It's crawling close to the ground. We've got another super brightly colored Dilophosaurus. Check out that bright green along its body and the orange right along the top. And the final dinosaur of the bin is a Monolophosaurus with battle damage on the side that you can open and close. This Monolophosaurus is also fully adjustable with the legs, the arms, the neck, and the mouth. Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.